I think just to counter what Michael said, I've got a few important caveats. Number one, I don't have the answer. I've got several answers to what's going on at the moment, and I certainly don't have any magic bullets, so I apologise for that. But certainly from where I'm sitting, we're still coexisting within massive levels of uncertainty at the moment, and we will be for some time. Certainly what we're seeing within the data is that there are issues that are going to be emerging for a long time in terms of travel and what will happen within travel. If I take myself for example, I've got a flight booked to Hong Kong in July. Yesterday, Hong Kong shut their borders till September. We have an office in Lithuania, and the Lithuanian guidance is if you've got more than 30 people with COVID-19 per 100,000 in any population, then you're not allowed to come into the country at all. Under 30, you can come in, but you need to go into quarantine. Under 15, you don't need to go into quarantine. And unfortunately, the UK is at 53, so I can't get there. So this will be a moving feast, and trying to make sense of what you can do from a business perspective and also from a customer's perspective is going to be really challenging. And I think what a lot of people are trying to deal with at the moment is the lack of data and lack of understanding of what they can do to get back to a sense of normality with travel. So where can they go and how can they go through that? So I don't have the answer, but I've got various ideas of what the answers might be. And point number two is I don't actually subscribe to the new normal that we're looking at thinking. So I don't have any shiny new ideas on new paradigms and all of that stuff. But what I can share is some of the most important ways we've actually been helping businesses through these times. So we're doing a lot of work at the moment to try and help people navigate through what the hell's just happened, what's gone on, what can we see within the data and what's gone on. And then what does the future potentially look like for us? And that's across all sectors. So just a little bit of a slide on Beyond Analysis. If you don't know us, we work across multiple sectors. We work across multiple sectors, and we do data strategy and consulting, data science and analytics, including machine learning and AI, analytical applications, visualization, and data operations, so how you store the data and how you look at it. And for some organizations, we do all of that, and for some, we do more of the strategy piece. But we work across financial services, travel, retail. We've also launched an anti-money laundering business whilst in lockdown as well, called Beyond AML, which has landed the China Construction Bank as its first cab off the rank for the work that we do, the work that we're doing there. So I won't talk about any more about us, but I think if I go into what's happened, what's going on, and what's continuing to change or starting to shift. We have seen, and this is from the global travel booking data within the IATA bookings, this time last year there were 54 million bookings in the GDSs. This is within the GDS environment. And in May 2020, that's under 5 million. That is a massive shift in behavior, whichever way you look at it. And so getting a handle on what is actually going on has been the first step that we've been helping a lot of people through. Quickly assessing the impact on their business and the worst and best case has been quite a vital activity for most organizations. And at least so that they can start to build some solid plans on the future. So understanding what has happened has been quite key. And we can see that within the data. Now hasn't certainly been the time for guesswork or hunches. And I've seen a lot of sacred cows being removed from the room in favor of actually looking at the data. And data is, I'm seeing this in the conversations that we're all having, playing a crucial role in providing some impartial and objective insights into what's going on. Where we have seen a few companies flounder over the last few months, and actually with a few private equity houses that we've also been speaking to as well are the ones that couldn't quickly get to the data they themselves hold, let alone be able to use market-based insights. So they're not really being able to grapple with the data internally within the organization and get their hands on that first before they can even look at the market as a whole. And it's fair to say the travel industry is awash with data on its market and can see where things are starting to pick up. You know, you do have a lot of data across the travel industry. The travel industry does have a lot of data, and the large platforms can track travel inquiries and searches, which provide a strong read on intent and, you know, the path to purchase, intention versus actual purchase. And obviously bookings are the cold hard evidence of activity. So this is again from the GDS data. There's been across this month, whilst things haven't moved certainly to where they have been before, week on week there's been about an 18% improvement in the number of bookings that have been going on. So there are signs of recovery. There are not signs of significant recovery in the market. So the decline has been significant. Now, certainly diagnosing what's happened has been one element of what people have been looking at, and we've been helping people with, and looking into their data to understand what the hell has gone on. But also the companies that I think grappled with what was going on fastest realized as well that this was an opportunity to change a lot of things that they hadn't done for years but knew that they needed to. So in particular, this is an observation of this has happened in channel shift behavior from physical stores into online. And I'm going to give you a retail example about nearly every single retail organization that we work with, and I'm sure this is true of other people, has seen a massive channel shift that they wouldn't have expected. One fragrance retailer that we work with in the UK, if they were to come back and open all of their stores today, their online business used to be 10% of their business. If they were to open their stores fully today, their online business is now worth 65% of the overall value of the business. The channel shift has been massive. And that's a behavior change that I don't think is going to go away. Challenge number two that I thought I'd talk about is which customers are likely to be around when this is all over, which to target with restricted marketing budgets, and how do you help them actually figure out what travel options are available for them, as they'll undoubtedly be as confused as the rest of us on what to do with travel. So the historical booking data and the historical data that you have on customers actually could be quite important, certainly for understanding and establishing cohorts of customers that you can interrogate to help you with some quite useful things. So looking at historical and repeat bookings and frequency will tell you who your most loyal customers are, and those that will repeat book with you year on year. So those are the ones that you should obviously be looking to protect. Understanding previous bookings will tell you where those customers are likely to like to travel and what kind of travel persona they are, and be sure that you can actually provide some really relevant options to them when they start to come back. Or they might be thinking differently about what they do, but the important thing is to engage with them in a relevant way. And which ones are typically restricted by things like term dates. You can see that which ones are traveling around holidays, school holidays, and things like that, and which are not and might have the flexibility to wait or delay or break a few weeks and wait for their preferred destinations to actually open up again. Historical price point data will help guide to which of those customers are more likely to be in a position to take holidays when prices might not be that competitive. So it's important to understand new personas. It's important to understand loyalty, timing, preferences, pricing, but finally credit is something that we're observing is going to become important. I don't know if this has happened in every market around the world. It certainly happened in the United Kingdom. But our Chancellor, when he was announcing that, you know, people should be able to take a mortgage holiday and speak to their bank about taking a mortgage holiday and do all sorts of wonderful stuff that was just normally would affect people's credit rating. He was saying that that is not going to affect people's credit rating, and they won't let it affect people's credit rating. The answer is, I don't personally understand how it can't affect people's credit rating. And it won't. So if you've asked for a mortgage holiday or you're doing something, it will be in your banking details. Now, so the credit rating agencies and just the way that they collect data at the moment, I think we'll have to figure out a different way to look at the customers. And certainly what we have, again, been helping a few organizations with, a fuel card payment business in particular, and a number of retailers, is actually looking at those customers who under normal circumstances were really good for credit and actually were really good customers for them previously. And they therefore were overlaying their own data and their own transaction data that they've had with those customers onto the credit rating data as well, to make a more educated guess about whether those customers might be good for credit in the future. I'll use a non-travel example because again, a furniture retailer who sells products on credit. If someone has had a 4-year interest-free credit program with them previously and has been good for that credit over the 4 years, then we have that as an overlay on top of the credit rating data to be able to go, okay, well, their credit rating might have turned slightly sour, but actually it looks, as far as their past behavior with us is concerned, as if they're really good for finance. So we might make a different decision collectively with our credit providers. We might make a different decision about that customer than we would do if we purely looked at their credit profile via a credit rating agency. The other thing is actually there's been a huge amount of declines happening on mobile, and that's because on mobile you can't provide necessarily the same level of information, and you might not actually have a fixed address or have been in that address for a long time. So we're having to reassess the risk around mobile mobile applications for credit. So credit is something that I think will change, and will change the dimension by which we actually look at customers. So the pandemic has brought a new dimension as to why understanding customers really well is so important. All the usual reasons, such as effective and relevant marketing, still remain, but my experience in the last 10 weeks, the biggest reason currently is to support significantly reduced sales teams and customer agents and prioritize where the best customer opportunities are. So who are the customers that we should be prioritizing? Number 3 on my list, which is, and this kind of goes into workforce as well, is which physical locations do you open up for sales first? Not a significant, an insignificant challenge for many businesses. And some organizations we work with have a huge number of locations in a huge number of territories. They also, you know, one example, they also have 25% of their staff who don't feel comfortable going back to work unless they've been guaranteed that the space that they're going back to is safe. So they also have buildings that have been dormant for a long period of time. So actually, you can kind of forget COVID-19 for a second. We're you know, a few businesses have been actually having to test for Legionnaire's disease because their water systems have not been used for the 10 weeks that they've been out of the office. So, you know, COVID-19 is an issue, but actually getting people back to work and getting people back to a working environment is key. And we do workforce optimization and store location planning for people like McDonald's, to understand who to send back to work and where to open a store, and what are the physical parameters of getting those stores open. it's very challenging. There is no right answer, but I can honestly say that the best place to look is within the data that the organisation has already. Actually, an anecdote on McDonald's from our work last year: if a store has a team of under 20-year-olds, that team will perform 30% less than if that team had one over 30-year-old in that group, because the over 30-year-old will tell the under 20-year-olds what to do, and will also the toilets will be clean and everything will be nice and slick inside the business. So a McDonald's will perform 30% better if it's got an over 30-year-old in the team on the store at any one point in time. So yeah, buildings, staff, workforce optimization, all of the old workforce optimization stuff that people have been doing, that's been thrown out and put back in. We've actually been turning some of our experience in industry for workforce optimization now for the NHS in the UK, which is great use of data. Yeah, figuring out how to reconfigure which staff members to relocate where and devise completely new workforce scheduling plans. We're seeing a lot of that. Not only does that need to be done with safety in mind, but also making sure that the right skills are in the right place at the right time. Using a combination of external and internal data sources. We've actually launched this, which you're seeing on screen now, which is it was actually the genesis of an idea. We actually just sat across so many data sets within the organization that we went, actually we could do something with all of this. So we launched something called IRIS, which is the Industry Recovery Index Statement, which is by SIC code in the UK, and we're now doing this in Australia as well, and launching it around the world. By SIC code in the UK and by postcode, we are predicting the turnaround by industry sector for locations in the UK based on a combination of data fields. So financial services transaction data, fuel card transaction data, share price data, a whole host of different things, and using that to produce a very cheap product which we've launched out to market. And then we were doing this for interest for ourselves, and then actually realized that it might be useful for other people, especially with the predictive element involved. But we've sat on some pretty useful data sets, and that's being used across a number of different areas at the moment to predict when people might open stores by SIC code, or when they might wholesale better to certain locations. Sorry, I was told to have 10 minutes, and I think I've gone on over that time already, so apologies. The final point for me, I guess, is my background in media. So as we've just been discussing, many moons ago, I was at M&C Saatchi, and I used to head up One World Advertising and British Airways advertising stuff for Lord Saatchi and his brother. And so my background in media, I think there is an opportunity within what's happening, and we're seeing this within marketing, to actually grow brands, because cost per thousands are cheap. It's relatively cheap to get more eyeballs on your ads as a result. So well-targeted campaigns we're seeing are actually paying back dividends, because we bridge into advertising and looking at the data that's going on there as well. Obviously, media owners must play their part in all of that, but we are seeing a shift of responsiveness of consumers to advertising, especially online. That's it. Thank you.